Why do 90% of horror fans love ghost stories? Is it the thrill of the unknown, the adrenaline rush of fear, or perhaps the comfort of knowing that these tales are just that, stories? Whatever the reason, ghost stories have a way of captivating our imaginations and drawing us into their eerie worlds. The moon hung low, casting long, eerie shadows across the graveyard. The air was thick with fog, and the silence was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the rustling of leaves in the wind. It was the perfect setting for a ghostly encounter. 10-year-old Alex, lost and scared, wandered through the maze of tombstones, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He had been separated from his friends during a game of hide-and-seek, and now he found himself in the heart of the graveyard, surrounded by the cold, unfeeling stone markers of the dead. Earlier that day, Alex had been playing in the park with his friends. They had laughed and chased each other, their carefree voices filling the air. But in his excitement, Alex had ventured too far off the path, drawn by the allure of the unknown. Now, he was hopelessly trapped. The once familiar park had transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and fear. Every direction he turned seemed to lead him deeper into the graveyard, and the sense of dread grew with each passing moment. As he walked, a strange rustling sound came from behind a nearby gravestone. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but it grew louder and more insistent, like the whisper of a ghostly presence. He stopped in his tracks and slowly turned around, his heart pounding in his chest. The world seemed to hold its breath as he strained to see through the thick fog. His eyes widened in terror as he caught sight of a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness. There, in the dim moonlight, stood a tall, gaunt figure with glowing eyes and tattered clothes. It moved with an unnatural grace, its eyes fixed on Alex with an intensity that sent shivers down his spine. It was a Banshee, a spirit of death said to wail and weep before a person dies. Legends spoke of their mournful cries, foretelling doom and despair. Alex's blood ran cold as he realized the gravity of his situation. Alex's blood ran cold. He had heard stories of the Banshee from his grandmother, tales that had always seemed like mere folklore. But now, faced with the spectral figure, those stories took on a terrifying reality. He tried to run, but his legs felt like lead. Fear had rooted him to the spot, and every instinct screamed at him to flee, yet he couldn't move. The Banshee's presence was overwhelming, a force that seemed to drain the very life from the air around him. The Banshee glided towards him, its outstretched hands reaching for him. Its wail, a sound so haunting and sorrowful, filled the night air, echoing through the graveyard and chilling Alex to the bone. Alex screamed at the top of his lungs, hoping that someone would hear him and come to his rescue. His voice was raw with desperation, a cry for help that seemed to be swallowed by the darkness. Just as the Banshee was about to grab him, a bright light appeared in the distance. It cut through the fog like a beacon of hope, illuminating the graveyard and casting the Banshee in stark relief. It was his father, who had been searching for him all night. The sight of his father, with a flashlight in hand, brought a wave of relief crashing over Alex. He felt the grip of fear loosen its hold on him. The Banshee hissed and vanished into the darkness, leaving Alex trembling in his father's arms. The warmth of his father's embrace was a stark contrast to the cold terror he had just experienced. Alex never forgot that night. It was a story he would tell for years to come, a tale of fear and bravery, of the thin line between the living and the dead. He learned that the graveyard was not just a place of rest for the dead, but also a home for the spirits of those who had passed on. It was a place where the veil between worlds was thin, and where the past and present could collide in the most unexpected ways. And sometimes, even in the darkest of places, there is hope. The dawn would always come, bringing light to chase away the shadows, and with it, the promise of a new day.